Bible Worm, reading the Bible with Bible Worm.
Welcome to Bible Worm, getting to the core of the biblical text. I'm Dr. Robert Williamson, professor of religious studies at Hendrix College and theologian in residence of Canvas Community in Little Rock, Arkansas.
And I'm Dr. Amy Robertson, Director of Lifelong Learning and Music at Congregation Or Hadash in Sandy Springs, Georgia. We're here every week to discuss the biblical text, both as biblical scholars and as people of faith, one Jewish, one Christian.
This week we're reading the parables of the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost son, as told in Luke 15, 1-32. While these stories are sometimes read separately, we find that reading them together puts them in a different light, one that draws our attention to the value of each individual, the importance of the whole community, and especially the tendency of the kingdom of heaven to break out into a party. Whoever we are, whether the one who has wandered off, the one who has made poor decisions, or the one who feels overlooked and unappreciated, we are invited into the party too. Come on, what are we waiting for? Thanks for joining us. Hey, Amy, it's Bible Worm time.
Good morning, Bobby. That sounded depressing. I meant it to sound like it was a game show.
A game show. I was reminding me of Robin
Come
Williams
on down.
Whatever that movie was where he was in Vietnam. Good Morning, Vietnam. That was probably the name of the movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. That movie where he said good morning when he was in Vietnam. What was the name of that movie? Yeah. We are not reading Good Morning Vietnam today, though. We are reading one of the most beloved series of parables that there is in the New Testament, which is in Luke chapter 15.
That's a big statement you just made.
I made a big statement. I did.
Wow. Okay.
I think it's probably true. Like we read the Good Samaritan a couple of weeks ago. And then I think this little series of 3 parables, the lost sheep, the lost coin, and most especially the prodigal son, are probably, alongside the Good Samaritan, some of the best known and most loved parables of Jesus.
All right. Well, that's a big deal. We'll try to do them some honor.
Having said that, the way that these texts are read in the Revised Common Lectionary, which is what regular people follow, the first 2 parables, the sheep and the coin, are read on one Sunday. I forget when it is. And then 6 months later, the prodigal son is read. And so you don't connect them.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the time we're used to just hearing the prodigal son as its own little thing.
Yeah.
And it means some things that way. But when you put it in series with these other 2, it changes everything a little bit.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm kind of excited talking about this with you is when I've been struggling a little bit as I've been preparing this to figure out exactly what I want to do with these 3 together. It's not like these are familiar and therefore I got it. It's these are familiar and so, but I want to figure out how they all.
How do they fit into each other? How do the first 2 prime you in a certain way that is the right way or makes it surprising or does. Yeah, they flow right into each other, so they must have something to do with each other.
Yeah. And what do we miss about that third, the prodigal story, when we disconnect it from the first 2? Yeah, all of those things.
Yeah.
So we are in Luke chapter 15, verses 1-32. Jesus is still on his way. He's been in Galilee. He has set his face toward Jerusalem. He is on his way. The last text we had, Jesus was lamenting over the fate of Jerusalem that is coming. When he arrives here in a few weeks. Is there anything that we need to know in order to get us ready for this text?
Bobby, there's one chapter in between that we didn't read during which Jesus is at a meal at a Pharisee's house and has, lots of interesting conversations with people who are there. But I don't know that we need to raise up any of them in particular in order to understand what's happening in 15. Is there anything that stands out to you from 14?
I mean, that story about the banquet is one of my most favorite stories I mean, I know I just said that about Luke 15 also. So
I love your love of these stories.
Yeah,
it's great.
I love that text about the wedding banquet and who sits where, and then somebody's throwing a party, and really turns out to be the kingdom of heaven, and some people don't want to come. So it's a lovely text. I love it. I could live in that text, but it is not our text for today. The one thing I think, like what you're raising up about the Pharisees inviting people to dinner and sort of getting scolded for it, is like, this is a repeated theme as we have seen in the Gospel of Luke. And it is persistently about the Pharisees and Jesus having different ideas about who should be invited to dinner.
Who's at your table? Who's at your table?
Which also has, of course, parallels to like who's invited into the kingdom and all of those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when we pick up in Luke 15, Jesus is sort of continuing that conversation in a different kind of way, but it's a familiar conversation.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we dig in then to Luke 15?
I'm ready.
I'm reading in the Common English Bible. All the tax collectors and sinners were gathering around Jesus to listen to him. The Pharisees and legal experts were grumbling, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Jesus told them this parable. Suppose someone among you had 100 sheep and lost one of them. Wouldn't he leave the other 99 in the pasture and search for the lost one until he finds it? And when he finds it, he is thrilled and places it on his shoulders. When he arrives home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, "Celebrate with me because I've found my lost sheep." In the same way, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who changes both heart and life than over 99 righteous people who have no need to change their hearts and lives. Okay, so setting the parable aside for just a second, the context for this is pretty important. Jesus talking to Pharisees and legal experts who are once again grumbling.
So grumbly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there anything, we've talked about this nature of this grumbling previously. Is there anything that we need to remind ourselves?
Yeah, we've talked about it. What is rising to my mind right now is like the particular fact that he is eating with them and the sort of rituals around having a meal together are becoming in this period of time kind of an elevated time. After the destruction of the first temple, they sort of rose in importance. There is still a temple at this time, but there's kind of parallel traditions, I guess, of sacrifice at the temple and a way of really sanctifying eating at home. And so saying that you're eating with these people is sort of like even a step higher than talking to them or interacting with them in some way. You're breaking bread, you're sharing food. It's a pretty intimate thing to share a meal with other people. Yeah, when we've talked about it before, we've talked about it. Could there be some kind of, is it just like a sort of a reputation thing? Like, it looks bad for you. It looks bad for us as leaders of the Jewish community. It maybe is misleading to people if they see you eating with these other folks who are known to be doing things they ought not be doing. Then maybe everyone thinks that you're giving them the stamp of approval and will be confused about what to do. And all, I don't know. It seems to bring up a whole host of these questions. But as you pointed out, like Jesus really has no compunction. That's a word, right?
That is a word. Yeah.
Jesus has no compunction about eating with sinners.
Now I have to Google compunction.
Just make sure I used it correctly. This morning, I also used the word replete. I was like, I haven't used that word in years. And it just came right out of me. Maybe I used it wrong.
Yes, Dr. Google tells me that compunction means a feeling of guilt or moral scruple that prevents or follows the doing of something bad. He has no compunction.
Yeah, he doesn't feel bad about doing this.
You are replete with wisdom about vocabulary.
I'm replete with vocabulary words today.
Yeah. It is, yes. It does seem to be the case that, Jesus is just all about, like, he'll eat with whoever. Mm-hmm. And it's not that he doesn't want to eat with people who are righteous. It's that he doesn't want eating with people who are righteous to prevent him from also eating with people who are from other walks of life. So he gets frustrated, it seems, by people who will remove themselves from his dinners because they don't want to be in that group.
Yes. And he has said, which this really strikes a chord for me, like, what's the point of ministering to people who already are doing fine?
Right.
You're doing fine. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like if you cut off the people who actually are kind of off the derech, off the path, then what's the point? You're supposed to be drawing people in.
Exactly.
So you've gotten confused about your job.
So the story that he tells then in response to them sort of criticizing him for eating with sinners is this parable of the lost sheep. Amy, when we read parables together, one of the things that we often say is, let's let the parable be a parable before we make it be an allegory for something else.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I've been instructed by Amy Jo Levine in particular about this, but let's read the parable without Luke's interpretation of the parable before we read the interpretation of the parable. So Luke's going to tell us that this is about rejoicing over a sinner who changes their heart and life.
Yes.
But let's just imagine that we are
let's just hear the words
audience
reported to
listening to the
Jesus.
story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And see what we do with that. And then we can come back around. So Jesus asks us to imagine that we have 100 sheep and we lost one. The verb there is interesting to me because the verb is about me, the listener, losing a sheep. It's not about the sheep wandering off.
It's not the sheep wandering. Mm-hmm.
Probably the sheep wandered off is how I lost them. Mm-hmm. But, Yeah,
but if you're the shepherd, it is you expect the sheep to wander. Like sheep are going to wander. It is your responsibility to somehow not let them do that.
It is in the nature of sheep to be wanderers. And so my job is to make sure I know where my 100 sheep are.
They're spiritual seekers.
Yeah. Amy, I'm just noticing what I think is a strange translation in the CEB where he says, wouldn't he leave the other 99 in the pasture and search for the lost one until he found it? And to me, the answer to that is, yeah, I probably would. Because everybody's safe in the pasture.
Yes.
But what does your translation
My translation does not have pasture. He leaves them in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Which feels very different.
It feels very different. Yeah, the Greek is actually eremos there, which is wilderness, the arid place. And so I think, I want to follow the NRSV here, both because I think it's closer to the Greek, but also because it makes the parable a little more
spicier.
Spicy. Yeah, exactly. So the question is, who wouldn't just leave your 99 sheep in the wilderness and go after the one? And it's asked almost as a question, wouldn't you leave the 99?
Right. Obviously you would.
Yeah. Is that obvious to you?
Okay. I've never been in this situation.
yeah. Don't spend a lot of time with sheep. Not spending a lot of time in the wilderness. Yeah.
I've never been in this situation. But my first thought was, unless I had some reason to trust that the other sheep were not going to wander or that they were in a safe place. No, I don't. It is not obvious to me that I would.
Yeah. That's the way I read it too, is that this shepherd has done something a little radical or a little maybe
this is not
even
a logical thing to do. It's an emotional thing to do. I don't necessarily
the one
need
sheep
to hold
is so
those
important to him.
Contrast.
That the one sheep is so important. That's beautiful. I'm not going to let that sheep wander off. Got to go get that sheep. But there is a sort of a risk to the 99. People that I know who know sheep are those sheep would be gone. I think somebody on the Bible Worm Collaborative grew up on a sheep farm. It might have been our liturgist, Terry,
That's
actually.
very useful. You always need someone in Bible study who grew up with sheep.
Exactly. Who's those sheep would wander off. And so he's taken a little bit of a risk leaving those sheep in the wilderness. I don't know how I feel about that. It's a pretty challenging thing. If you're supposed to be like this shepherd, it seems to be suggesting you should take the risk for the one, even though it might you might lose another one while you're out there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm trying to imagine what the people listening to this parable are thinking right at this moment while Jesus is talking.
Maybe Jesus just talks really fast so they don't have time to
Yeah, they don't have time. Yeah. So whatever the case, whether he should have done it or not done it, he goes out, he finds the lost sheep, puts it on his shoulders, which I just really love that image.
It's really sweet.
It's like giving a piggyback ride or sheepyback ride. Yeah. My son calls that, Daddy, put me on your neck. I'm like, oh. I don't think anybody else probably ever says that, but it's so cute. Put me on your neck. So he's got little Lammy on his shoulders. He's sheepy backing him back to the house. And then he calls together all his friends and says, hey, I found my lost sheep. Like, come celebrate with me. I don't know. What is your response just listening? If you imagine yourself listening to this story and here's this guy having a block party because he found his sheep.
I guess, again, I go back to there's something going on. There's something going on between him and the sheep. That sounds really weird, but that's not how I meant it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so hard because I don't hang out with sheep, but if he has 100 in his care and one of them wanders off, I don't know why he is so attached to that one. Like, is he worried that it's going to be harmed and he's thinking about harm to that sheep and wants it to be safe? Is he endangering the other ones? Like, is a wolf afraid of a flock but not afraid of a single sheep? Like, I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
I think it's a little, I don't, on the level of the parable, it's hard for me to understand.
I mean, I think you're pointing to the right. I mean, it's the same questions that occur to me. Like, economically, I think if I were the shepherd, thinking in business terms, I would just say, you know what? 1 out of 100 sheep wandering off, like there's a profit loss of 1%. That seems fine to me. Yeah. The risk to the 99% seems too high. Like, I'm just going to let that sheep just, whatever happens to it, it's fine. Yeah. This is not about economics or practical thinking. This is about,
not like
I
strategic.
care about that sheep.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
One of the things Amy Jo Levine points out that I really like is that maybe what the shepherd cares about is not just the one sheep, but he cares about the 100-ness of the flock. Like, this would read very different if it was like there were 72 sheep and one of them wandered off. But when it's 100 and like 99 feels like, it just feels like one short of 100, right? It just feels like you feel the incompleteness. So I kind of like that way of reading it too. Like, the shepherd cares about his whole flock.
Yeah.
The good news there would be if you were one of those 99 sheep that got left in the wilderness, you would be annoyed probably. I mean, I don't know sheep experience annoyance, but
you'd be indifferent. Okay.
Yeah. I would be annoyed if I were a self-conscious sheep and the shepherd went off after the other one and left me out there like, hey, what about me? But also there is a comfort there because if I get lost one day, I know that shepherd's going to come after me. Like, there's like a beauty there. Because I'm part of this flock, the shepherd cares about the flock. He'll go get me too.
Yeah.
The closest I can come to the party is my sweet dog, may she rest in peace, Siduri. When she was quite old, the gate in our backyard, which we didn't even really know there was a gate in our backyard, like it was locked all the time, it got opened. I forget how, and she wandered out. And my wife was walking home. She's coming home from a walk, and she saw this dog walking down the yellow double line in the center of the big road out of our house. She's like, that kind of looks like our dog. And it was Siduri. And it just happened that Siduri wandered like in the same direction that my wife was walking back. And so we say like the dog was fine, like rescued. And like, I kind of wanted to invite people over and have a party. That is not exactly what Luke's Jesus.
No, that's not quite where Luke is going.
Lands.
No.
Jesus. So the reason I keep saying Luke's Jesus is because Amy Jo Levine her argument is that when we hear Jesus interpret his own parables, what we're really hearing is the gospel writer interpreting Jesus's parable. Just putting the interpretation at. People will obviously disagree about that. But anyway, what Jesus says here is that there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who changes heart and life, or who repents is how that normally is translated, than 99 who have no need to change their hearts and lives. Can you just talk to me about how that interpretation strikes you?
The thought that came into my head first, and I don't know if this exactly answers your question, was just this moment of clarity that it's like, I keep trying to make the math work, and this is it's not math.
Yeah.
Like it's not math, because any one of the other 100 that gets lost or sins and then repents or whatever, also the same amount of love and effort and energy would go for them. I think I'm thinking too mathematically about it. Okay. The question of how we introduce someone being a sinner into this, if we try to think of a sinner as someone who, like, not to project sort of moral judgment on them, but they are, for whatever reason, not on the path, not on the derech, as we would say in my community, I guess I can see the sort of analogy of being concerned about them and wanting them to bring them back into the community fold where there is a sense of safety and inclusion and all of that. But my problem with the word sinner, at least in English, is that it really does have a pointedness about it. Like, it's not just, like it has a moral implication. And
like, the sheep has not been like smoking cigarettes under the bleachers or whatever.
Right.
The sheep just like got lost. And so like it's a little awkward to give like moral.
Unless it is trying to shift our way of thinking about how we think about sinners versus righteous people.
One of the things I like about it, and that we were talking about earlier, is that the verb that's used here is the shepherd lost the sheep.
Yeah.
And now we've got the return of a sinner. And so there's this sense of like dual responsibility. Like, when a sheep wanders off, it is both the sheep lost the way and the shepherd lost the sheep.
Yeah.
And I think that complicates it a little bit more than just like bad sheep wandered away and the shepherd had to go get it. Like the shepherd had some responsibility in the losing and also took some responsibility for the finding.
Yeah.
And then I think the real point of this is the celebration. Like, when the community is back together, like, hey, that one sheep. I really wish that Luke, I wish that Jesus had said, there is joy in heaven when the whole community is back together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love that parable. They're like, there's more joy over the one that's back than the 99 who never left.
Yes. Yeah.
It just like sits with me.
It's hard.
Yeah. But I get what he means. Like, my other dog was home when my one dog wandered off. And I was super excited when my lost dog came back. And I was just like, oh yeah, there's other dogs.
I mean, it almost feels like it should be a lesson for the proverbial shepherd in this.
Yeah.
That, like, you need to take care to appreciate the things you have and not only appreciate them when they're gone.
Exactly.
But this is definitely not what Luke is going for.
That's not where Luke takes it. It's not at all. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Reverend Sharon Reese, and I pastor a small congregation in Minden, Nebraska. After hearing Amy and Bobby speak at a conference, I became a Bible Worm supporter and passionate about the narrative lectionary. Each week, as the solo pastor in a rural church, it is a reminder that we are never alone in our discernment of God's holy word. Bobby and Amy demonstrate how Scripture is something we interact with and not just read. Recently, my congregation and I used their Creation Care Summer Series and loved it. During each service, we drew small pieces of creation until we had a completed creation banner in the sanctuary. Everything from the stars in the firmament to the lilies in the field. If the podcast has been as fruitful for you as it has for me, please go to patreon.com/BibleWormPodcast and sign up to become a supporter too. And now, back to this week's episode.
All right, let's look at the second parable and see what that adds to our understanding. So I'm picking up in verse 8. Or what woman, if she owns 10 silver coins and loses one of them, won't light a lamp and sweep the house, searching for her home carefully until she finds it? When she finds it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, "Celebrate with me because I found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, joy breaks out in the presence of God's angels over one sinner who changes both heart and life. So Luke likes to do this thing. It's one of the characteristics of Luke where he tells a story in which the main character is male and then a story in which the main character is female. Like he does this kind of thing. And so here is one of the things that's happening here is this is an example of that. If we read the shepherd in the first parable as God, which we didn't necessarily do, but you could, then this is a female image of God. And so that's important in its own way.
Yeah.
Beyond that, what does this story add or confuse? Like, how are you thinking about this story?
Well, I mean, the coin doesn't get itself lost.
Right, exactly.
Like, this is clearly the woman lost a coin.
Yeah.
And then finds it. Like, I think just the fact that these are inanimate objects, and I imagine that her appreciation for each coin is, I don't actually know, but I imagine that it could be different than the kind of appreciation you have for a sheep. Like a sheep, it does something for you. It has value. It's part of the economic system. And it's also a living creature. So you might have a different kind of like tenderness or sense of care or responsibility for it. And a coin, it's just the value of it, I would imagine.
Which isn't interesting because what she does when she finds it is she throws a party. Which, unless they just got together and drank water and played Pictionary.
Right. She spent it.
She spent some money, like either that
Maybe
coin or
that
some
was the
other coin she
punishment.
had somewhere. That you had to, So it's not, I don't think it's exactly the value of the coin, like the monetary value of the coin. It's something, I appreciate your like, to whatever degree the sheep was a sinner because it wandered off, this coin is not a sinner, right?
Coin.
It's a coin. She dropped it. She put it in the laundry. It fell off the bedside table and rolled under the bed. Like something happened that was not the coin's doing.
Yeah.
And yet here the interpretation again is we're going to have that same kind of rejoicing among God's angels when one sinner changes heart and life.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the issue is like we're supposed to be focused on the rejoicing and not on the losing and finding. But this story goes exactly the same as the other one, right? Like there's a collection, one gets lost, person goes to search, finds it, party. It's the exact same story, except now instead of 100, we've got 10.
I mean, this version, so whereas with the first story, I had some element in my head of sort of to each sheep according to his needs. Like the other sheep didn't wander off, and so they didn't need this kind of special attention, and the sheep that wandered off did need it. In this story, it's more like, it seems to me more like about the preciousness of the coins themselves. Like it's the coins bring her some delight, or the collection of the coins bring her some delight.
I think that last piece is important. The word that's used for the coin is drachmae, and so it's just silver coin. I forget how much a drachma is worth, but the coins are all the same. And so it is the value of the coins or the value of the coin collection, but it's not the particular value of that particular coin. You know what I mean? It's that all the coins have equal value, one of them lost, so that's the one that becomes the focus of attention. And then what we're rejoicing about again, I mean, one way you could read it is we're rejoicing about the restoration of the community. By the way, Matthew also tells the lost sheep parable that we were just talking about. And his interpretation is that it is not the will of your Father that any of the little ones be lost. So Matthew's interpretation of the lost sheep parable is about keeping the community together.
That's interesting.
Luke's interpretation is about rejoicing over the one who lost and found, which is, I mean, it's kind of like you can get there as we were trying to do.
Yeah, but it's a little, it's not quite so oriented towards the whole.
Yeah. So we've got the prodigal parable yet to go. But if you just try to imagine why Jesus is telling these two stories, or what you think the Pharisees are meant to be understanding from these two stories. Like he's telling these in response to them grumbling about Jesus eating with tax collectors and sinners. How do you understand at this point what Jesus's point has been?
I mean, I think in some way that is vaguely distressing to me. I feel like these stories affirm their sense of superiority, but the main message being, it is my job to seek out the one who is lost. Yeah. And the one who is lost is these sinners, tax collectors. And so that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm meant to do.
So Jesus is the shepherd. Jesus is the woman who is searching out for the lost one. And then the heavens are rejoicing. Not just Jesus is happy, but
yes. Yeah.
I actually really love that image of like the whole of the spiritual realm is like breaks into song whenever somebody is returned, a sinner, a wanderer is returned to the fold. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Jesus also, the way he phrases it is, wouldn't you do that? To which my response is, no, I wouldn't do that, especially with the sheep parable. With the coin parable, maybe I would. But honestly,
with the coin parable, there's no danger involved. They're just coins and they're all in her house. She didn't leave them on the park bench and go off looking for her coin. Like it feels different in that way.
What's so interesting in that way too, though, is it seems like it's the middle of the night and she lights a lamp and she searches like all through her house.
Like there's urgency.
And like, I would just be like, you know what? I lost my coin. I'll get it tomorrow. Like when the sun comes out and I can see, I'll go find it. And so when Jesus says, wouldn't you do the same? My first response is, I don't think I would. And so there may be a little bit of like, the shepherd is Jesus, the woman is Jesus, but he's actually doing something that's different than most of us, maybe including the Pharisees, would naturally do. And so when he says, wouldn't you do that? Then maybe the Pharisees are also thinking like, oh, wait, I should be, instead of being the sheep who's standing in the wilderness, I could also be the one who's going out and bringing people in or something like that.
That's interesting. Yeah, because it seems like if you're sort of inside these parables, you could read the Pharisees or as the sheep that don't run away.
Yeah.
But this is also inviting them to put themselves in the position of the shepherd.
This is one of the things I love about parables. And, you know, like when you hear these parables enough, you just get these like, oh yeah, the shepherd is God. The sheep is the sinner. The 99 sheep are the Pharisees. But the parables like let you move around. Yeah. And so you could say, what if I was the lost sheep? What if I was the shepherd? What if I was the 99? And you can kind of inhabit the story and it means different things. It's those 70 sides of the Torah that we talk about sometimes. That if you turn it, you discover new stuff.
Yeah.
So these two stories set us up for the final story, which is also a story about a man who loses something. But it goes, and it is recognizably on the same pattern of has something, loses it, finds it, rejoices. But it plays with that. I mean, we've established the kind of here's how the story goes, but then the story doesn't quite go that way. And so it's similar enough that you notice that the differences. So it's really interesting the way Jesus has used those first two parables, I think, to set up this one, maybe as the kicker. I'm in verse 11. Jesus said, a certain man had two sons. The younger said to his father, Father, give me my share of the inheritance. Then the father divided his estate between them. Soon afterward, the younger son gathered everything together and took a trip to a land far away. There he wasted his wealth through extravagant living. When he had used up his resources, a severe food shortage arose in that country, and he began to be in need. He hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him out into his fields to feed pigs. He longed to eat his fill from what the pigs ate, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, How many of my father's hired hands have more than enough food, but I'm starving to death? I will get up and go to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. Take me on as one of your hired hands. So he got up and went to his father. While he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was moved with compassion. His father ran to him, hugged him, and kissed him. Then his son said, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son." But the father said to his servants, "Quickly bring out the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Fetch the fattened calf and slaughter it. We must celebrate with feasting, because this son of mine was dead and has come back to life. He was lost and is found." And they began to celebrate.
So many questions.
So many questions. Where do you want to start?
When this story starts, a man had 2 sons.
Yeah.
Do you start thinking of stories of fathers with 2 sons?
I do now. What are there stories? I mean, I can think of a bunch of them, but I'm curious about which ones.
I mean, if you read the whole story, then I think of, I guess, Cain and Abel, because I feel like this is a father with 2 sons that arouses like real jealousy, but also Jacob and Esau, Isaac and Ishmael. You know, like 2 sons. And then it's interesting that usually in those stories, the younger son turns out to be the favored one. But I guess it does in this case too. The younger son goes crazy, but then
for a little while he's out of favor.
For a little while, he comes back. But then he comes back, and I don't know what exactly is at work in my mind, other than this just got so personal. Like we had 100 sheep. And then we had 10 coins, which is a much smaller number. It's more intimate. It's in her house, but they're coins.
Right.
And now it's 2 sons.
So our focus is narrow, and people like are
really personal,
complex, relational.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I love that. I mean, you spend so much time in the Hebrew scripture. And so when your radar goes ding, ding, this is like pointing us to these Torah stories. Like that's what the Jewish characters in the story, or the Jewish audience of this gospel, probably were also thinking, is like, oh, and naming those stories that you just named and thinking, okay, the younger one, like, how's this going to play out? But the younger one's usually the favorite. Like, I think that is exactly what's happening here. The younger son at the beginning of this parable asks his father for his inheritance. And so, I mean, what he's doing is he's not asking for a loan or anything like that. He's asking for, take what is going to be mine when you die and
give it to me
early. And it seems like the father gives both of the sons. He divided it between them. And so he gives the younger son what is his, and he gives the older son what is his. Some people have read that as, I don't know, a pretty aggressive or dismissive act on the part of the son. I've never quite known whether this is like, yeah, sure, fine, this is something we just do all the time, or whether we would think of this as like offensive. Did you process it any way?
I mean, I will say that Amy Jill Levine, who's like our MVP for this conversation, thinks that we should not read it as an offensive thing to have asked for, although it's a risky thing for the father to do for reasons that become obvious, I guess. And also, sort of make the father then, it seems like they would be dependent. The father would be dependent on the sons. If he's like divided his estate before his death and given them their inheritance, then it seems like the text doesn't go into that. So I don't want to take it too far, but it seems like
it doesn't. Although at the very end, in the part we haven't read yet, the father says to the older son, "Everything I have is yours." And so there's this kind of like, at the very least, like this property is now mutual property, or something like that. I've heard this interpreted as like this younger son wishes his father was dead, and like I don't go there. Yeah, but there are also like the commandments, like honor your father and your mother. Like there's a value of keeping the family together. There's a value of like, it seems disrespectful or a little casual about the importance of familial relationships, the importance of the community. And so like inappropriate maybe in that kind of a way, but not like a slam on the
I think inappropriate to its time. It's so funny because I feel like in the modern world where a lot of people go live far away from their parents, it doesn't seem as crazy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And I've heard people talk about their accumulated wealth in old age that way, that they're not going to wait until they die to give it to the people they were going to give it to. But I agree with you. In its time, I think that there would have been some friction here with the value of honoring parents and family.
It does feel very different to me if my parents were to say, like, hey, here's your inheritance. Versus me saying, hey, can I have my inheritance? Yeah, those feel...
Yeah, it's a little chutzpahdik.
Real different to me. So whatever the case, the son takes his part of the inheritance and he goes off to a foreign land and he wastes his wealth through extravagant living. Do you have it, like, when you picture what he's doing, like...
I picture him in some, like, penthouse suite surrounded by liquor bottles and drugs. No, like, I don't know what he would be doing.
He's often read that way. And the older son actually is going to read him that way at the end of the story. There are sort of implications of some sort of impropriety, probably. But also, like, what the Greek actually just says is he lived without control. And, like, I mean, I know people who do that and very, like, not, like, they're just,
wasn't
like, they
a good
overspend.
budgeter.
They're not, exactly. They're not
went into credit card debt.
Yeah, exactly. Like, went shopping too many times. Yeah. Bought a car he couldn't actually afford or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This does not obviously go well for him. And so he ends up running out of all of his money and he hires himself out to a citizen of that country. So presumably to a Gentile person who sends him into the field to feed pigs. He wants to eat the pig's food, but he's not even allowed to do that. And so this is some sort of depiction of, like, he's at a very low point in his life.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about the specifics of Gentiles, pigs, not being able to eat their food? Anything about that seems important? I
hadn't thought about that until you asked the question. I guess all I would say is that it really, it's a low point.
It's a low point.
I don't know. You could try to draw something out about pigs in particular, but as long as he's not, I don't really know. I don't want to do that. Yeah. I don't know what to do with it. So,
yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. Like, to me, the low point, he's hit rock bottom, and so, like, that's one part of the thing, and, like, he could be, like, not able to eat the food of lizards, and that would still be, or whatever, whatever,
pretty
like
bad.
Sheep, and it would still be. I do wonder if there is a sense not only that he has hit economic rock bottom, but also he is about as alienated from his family and his people as he could be.
Mm-hmm.
And the detail about the pigs might be important that way if you wanted to follow it. There's a passage in the Mishnah in Baba Kama that forbids raising pigs. So there's a little bit of a, like,
okay.
So I don't know. I don't want to press that too far, but partly the nuance that it brings out for me is, like, economically he's deep in it, but also he's lost connection, like, in a real profound way. Gentile territory, raising pigs, like, he could not be more alienated from his family than he is right now. So the son decides he's going to go home and beg his father. But I wanted to ask, like, in the other parables, when the sheep got lost, the shepherd went after it. When the coin got lost, the woman tore apart her house to go after it. When this son leaves, the father just stays at home. I don't know whether to make anything of that or not. I really want that father to go chase down his son and be like, come back, I'm going to give you a piggyback ride home.
I mean, I hear that. And also, this is a young man who has asked for independence. His father gave him money and doesn't know where he went off to, but it almost seems like the respectful thing to let him. He made a choice to go, and he has money. Like, the father doesn't know he spent all the money.
Yeah.
So I can see him still, like, really missing him,
Yeah.
but maybe not being aware that he is in distress or not feeling that sense of, I am responsible for you
Yeah.
in the same way that you might otherwise.
Like the sheep kind of wandered off, and you could imagine that if the son just like turned up missing one day,
Yeah.
the father would have gone and looked for him. But I really appreciate what you're saying. The son made a choice. The father has honored the choice.
Yeah.
And so he's letting his son live his life, and he doesn't know. Some people, when the son comes back, the father sees him while he's still far off and goes to him. And some people have read that as the father's not going to go after the son because the son has left of his own choice. But the father's like standing at the window,
Wants him to
like
come
looking
back.
at the horizon, hoping. And so the reason he sees him so early, I kind of like that image.
I could see that.
The son, his plan is to go back and to tell his father that he wants to be treated like one of the workers.
Right, because their laborers are treated better
Exactly.
than he was being treated as a laborer. So
he would at least have something to eat and a little spending money.
Yeah.
When he gets there, though, the father runs out to meet him, and the text here is moved with compassion, which is that word we've been, like, this kind of become a theme in the podcast, but because it's a theme in Luke. Splungnizomai, he felt it in his guts or in his spleen. We saw that when Jesus, the spleen feeling that you know so well. We saw that same expression when Jesus healed the widow's dead son, raised him from the dead. We saw that expression in the Good Samaritan parable when the Samaritan encountered the wounded man, and we see it here. These sort of important turning points in these important stories.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything about that feeling of compassion that motivates the father here?
It is making me think that I was right to think that I need to get out of my sort of mathematical, strategic, intellectual self and read these stories as being more located in your spleen. That these are stories about compassion. It's not about like, here's a good system by which to run, my shepherding business or my household. It's just, sometimes you just have to let the feeling take up all the space it wants to take up. And this is a good feeling to do that with.
I love that, Amy. And now we can go back and if you wanted to read those other two parables where we were like, that doesn't make any economic sense.
Yeah.
And say like, oh, that shepherd, that woman, they were also motivated by some sort of gut feeling about the one that was lost.
Yeah.
And hence the celebrating. Text says that the father ran out to him, hugged him, kissed him. And even before the son has had a chance to say his little bit, which he does say, but the father just kind of ignores him. And then he gets a robe and a ring and sandals and the fatted calf. That's just, that is like an extravagance.
Yeah.
Where did your head go in reading that extravagant response of the father?
I think it only makes sense as this outpouring of love. Like it's almost like the compassion piece wiped away or overrode any sense of there are consequences to the things we do in the world, son, and you have done a thing and you need to learn the things that go with that. Like all that good parent, I don't know if it's good parenting, but like that mindset has already sort of been put on the back burner. And then his response here, this is not a compassionate response. This is like an effusive, it's not even just love. Like it's such, what adjective would you use to describe the feeling that seems to underpin this kind of?
I'm wondering if it's a feeling that I have never quite felt in this way, like sort of lost track of his own, like he's not thinking about anything. He's
not thinking about anything. He is
by
desperately happy and desperately in love with his beautiful son.
Yeah.
That's all I can see here because it doesn't make any sense to me. I can't make it make sense.
You got to feel it in your spleen.
Go with the spleen, man. Go with the spleen.
One detail here that's important, especially to the end of the story, is that the fatted calf that the father asks to be killed The way that often these things worked is most cattle are grass fed. And so they're out in the pasture and they're eating, but you would keep a calf or two that you would grain feed. And so you're like saving, like their whole life, you're preparing them for a special occasion. And so feeding the fatted calf is not just like, let's go see what we've got in the fridge, but it's like, here's the moment we've been like for years, we've been preparing for this. And here's the decision, like in this sort of like instantaneous moment.
Right. This is the moment.
The detail of fatted calf reminds me of a story that we read together, I think this year in Genesis 18, where the angels or God or whoever that is comes to visit Abraham.
They get the fatted calf too?
Yeah.
Oh.
And he's like, let me get you a little bread and water, and then he does this like extravagant thing for them.
Wow.
This sort of reminds me a little bit of that. In the other parables that we've read, this is where the parable ends, right? Where they're celebrating over the one who returns.
Yeah.
And we never get the perspective of the ones who were left standing in the wilderness. But here, one of the things that makes this story so powerful is we do get that perspective.
Yeah.
Picking up in verse 25. Now his older son was in the field. Coming in from the field, he approached the house and heard music and dancing. He called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. The servant replied, "Your brother has arrived, and your father has slaughtered the fattened calf, because he received his son back safe and sound." Then the older son was furious and didn't want to enter in, but his father came out and begged him. He answered his father, "Look, I've served you all these years, and I never disobeyed your instruction. Yet you've never given me as much as a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours returned, after gobbling up your estate on prostitutes, you slaughtered the fattened calf for him." Then his father said, "Son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found." Interpreters of this parable, in my experience, are often pretty negative toward the older son. I'm wondering, because you have a habit of empathizing with the characters and stories
Totally.
that you're not supposed to empathize with.
Yes, I do.
Can you give me an empathetic reading of the older son?
I mean, he has been doing the right thing every day. Yes, of course, that is like a fulfilling life. It's not that that's some kind of punishment. But sometimes doing the right things means not doing whatever you feel like.
Yeah.
And his brother went off and did whatever he felt like, spent his half of the inheritance. Now, it seems, as I read it, that the son who stayed home and his father, like basically where they're living is the other son's inheritance.
Right, yeah.
His father is now using that in this grand celebration. Like, I just feel like the person who is quietly working hard to do the right thing day after day never even gets a young goat. Like, no one even notices.
Yeah.
But this, I don't know, his brother is getting this tremendous showering of love. I'm not even convinced that his brother actually feels repentant, but that's maybe another issue.
Yeah.
He just wants something to eat.
It's just more scheming, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you need to put it so negatively, but like, he came home because he was hungry.
There is that line that we didn't really talk about, but Luke says he came to himself, or he came to his senses, which seems to imply some kind of a shift. But yeah, I agree with you that the decision he made is a practical one.
I mean, he came to himself and said, how many of my father's servants eat better, so I should go home.
Right. That's true. Not like, oh, I really messed up, let me go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. I don't know, but I absolutely empathize with the brother who has never gotten this kind of show of affection or care from his father, precisely because he does the work every day to live the way that we are told we are supposed to live.
I appreciate that so much. That I think the same thing, although maybe not quite as passionately. There are two other details. One is that what the older brother actually said is, "I've been slaving for you all these years." So even though he is the son who is inherited, he doesn't feel like part of the family. He feels like a slave.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been there, but he's felt alienated even though he's been there.
Yeah.
The other thing that really irks me about the father right here. I'm probably not supposed to be irked at the father, but the older son, nobody told him there was a party. He's out in the field. He's like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, nobody told you, but we're having a party for your brother. What do you mean
you won't come in, you jerk? Like, what do you expect him to feel?
At the very least, they should have gone out to the field and been like, hey, your brother's home, we're going to have a party. Why don't you come join us?
Yeah.
He shouldn't have
invite your friends.
Yeah. Now, I guess I'm assuming, is this the way you read it, that the older brother is a sort of a figure for the Pharisees? Is that how you read? Is that how you put this together?
I guess so.
I think they're supposed to, because they're sort of like not coming to the party. Like Jesus is having a party with the tax collectors and the sinners, and the Pharisees are standing outside the party. And so when we listen to the father talk to the older brother, I think there's the message that's in there maybe is for the Pharisees. What he says is, you are always with me and everything I have is yours. And then invites him into the party. We had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found.
Yeah.
So it's invitational. Mm-hmm. It is a recognition of like, you don't work for me. This has all been yours this whole time. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm curious what you think, maybe the way to stay in the parable is, what do you think the father is hoping the older son will hear? The way of sort of extending it is like, what do you think Jesus is hoping the Pharisees will hear?
I think the parable, and this is hard for me because, I fall really easily into this sort of like fairness mindset, but I feel like the parable is trying to pull me as a reader, or the Pharisees or whatever. Oh, I'll just call myself the Pharisees. It's no problem. It's okay. Try to pull me out of the mindset of like economics and scarcity and fairness and like strategy and systems, and like that how things are going to work, and if you do A, B, and C, then this is what's going to happen. Into this sort of, I guess, like place that like feeling of abundance. Everything that's mine is yours. You're actually fine. You're fine. Mm-hmm. You have enough. You don't need more. And this should be our celebration. Right. Like the fact that the brother is back we should be celebrating this as a family.
Yeah.
But somehow the older brother doesn't feel included in that.
The way he says it to his father is, this son of yours, you slaughtered
that's right.
Had a party for this son of yours, which is like what my spouse and I do when one of our kids is annoying us. We'll be like, your daughter, do you know what your daughter just did? Uh-huh. Yeah. And so he does feel alienated from the family in some way.
Yeah.
The father also says, what I have is yours, which has made me wonder. I've not always wondered this, but I'm wondering it today. If the father is saying like, you could have had a party anytime you wanted. But you have been in the mindset of
that's interesting.
Restriction. I don't know how far I want to take that, but I've been sort of pondering that. Like maybe the hard work and rules that the older brother has been felt bound by, actually are at some level his own kind of creation. He could also have celebrated if he wanted.
I really like that. I'm going to sit with that for a while.
One of the things that's important here is that the parable, the father is not saying, I love my younger son and not you, right? So the parable is not saying Jesus has now chosen tax collectors and sinners instead of Pharisees. It is saying we're like, Pharisees are fine. You are not sick. You don't need the doctor, to go back to that parable Jesus tells. Like, you're already here. You're part of it. Just come in and be like, don't separate yourself from the larger party, the larger, family, and let's all be together and celebrate. And so there's this sense of like invitation The parable ends without you ever knowing whether the older son goes in or not. So you're left with this kind of, like, what choice are you going to make? There's sort of an invitation there.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that a lot, Bobby.
Amy Jo Levine has an interpretation of this parable that I've found really useful. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but she kind of ignores Luke's interpretation or what Jesus says about sinners returning home. And she focuses on the shepherd, the woman, the father. And she says that shepherd had 100 sheep to keep track of. He noticed when one was missing. That's amazing. The woman only had 10 coins. She noticed when she had one missing. Isn't that amazing? The father had 2 sons. He lost one. He came back and he lost the other one. And he didn't even know it. And she's like, that father should have known that older son was out there in the field. And then the message becomes something like, pay attention to your community. Find the ones who have alienated themselves or felt alienated and go and gather them. I really love that. I've preached that a couple of times.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what Luke is actually necessarily trying to do.
I don't think it's what he's trying to do, but I like it.
But the parables can do that. Well, when you think about what Luke maybe is trying to do and how that connects to the world that we live in and communities of faith today, what are you taking away?
It's so interesting, Bob, because I really do read myself sort of alternately as one of the sheep who doesn't run away and the shepherd.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
So I think that when I think of myself as the one who stays, the one who's not lost, I think the message to me is to remember that, again, like to each according to his need. I am okay. And I love especially your point, Bobby, that like maybe he could have thrown himself a party if that's what he needed to, he wanted to do. He could have done it. And so to pay attention, to ground myself in that, I think often when feelings of jealousy arise, which is sort of how I read, I guess, the brother who stays, to ask that question, like, do I actually have what I need here? And if not, what do I need? Instead of being so mad that the world is not fair. Because guess what? The world's not fair. Like, it doesn't run on fairness. And that's just how it is. And I think that sort of works for me also, thinking of myself as the shepherd or the parent or whatever. Like, if I think about when one kid is sick or one kid has, a period of time where they actually need more attention. It is true that I'm sort of naturally have that feeling in my spleen that like they need more attention. It is also true that that's why children pretend to be sick sometimes. And so we need to remember that, like don't take for granted that people who aren't complaining or sheep who aren't running away are fine. But I think that's my overall message, to each according to his need. Oh, and also don't postpone joy. We've talked about compassion. If compassion rises up for you, follow it. Joy too. Joy too.
That's one of the things I love about this parable, Amy. It's not where my attention always goes, but today it really is, that there is so much rejoicing in this parable. Like, this is a joyful parable. And you can focus on other things about, being grumpy or feeling alienated but all of these stories are about parties. The earthly parties, the party for the sheep and the party for the coin anyway, are compared to angelic parties, heavenly parties. So like heaven is a party, and so too should the communities on earth that are reflections of heaven also be joyful celebrations. And it's so easy, especially when the world is as messed up as the world is, to forget to celebrate. And so I very much think that is an important point in these parables today. The extension of that, as you were saying, is like there are reasons why people get away from the parties. Some people wander off. Some people make bad choices. Some people set themselves up for one kind of life and it doesn't work out. Some people feel like underappreciated and overworked. And so there's lots of people who are outside of the party. To me, there's like the two important messages there. One is no matter who we are, whether we're the sheep or the coin or the younger brother or the older brother, like we're invited into the party. Like this is the dream, is that we would all get together and just celebrate together. And maybe it doesn't matter so much if we're celebrating me or we're celebrating you or we're celebrating us, but like, let's come back to the family and let's party together. The other piece, and I think this is probably informed by Amy Jo Levine's reading, is if we put ourselves in the position of the shepherd, the woman, the father, then the message is also when you're in the party, pay attention to who is not coming in and figure out why they're not coming in and make sure they are invited, whether it is letting them make their way back or whether it is looking under the bed to figure out what piece of furniture they rolled up under, whether it's putting them on your shoulder and bringing them home, whether it's going out and speaking a kind word to somebody who feels like you haven't appreciated them. Like make sure the people can get in.
Yeah, I love those dual messages. That's really nice.
Amy, next time we are going to continue reading great parables from the Gospel of Luke. This one in Luke chapter 16, verses 19 to 31 is a parable of a rich man and a poor man named Lazarus. It's a hard one. It's a good one. There's a lot to talk about.
I see the rich man is dressed in purple. My eyes just went to that verse, and that's pretty exciting already.
Yeah, purple is the color of royalty.
The rich man's color.
It is. It is indeed.
Great.
All right, Amy, thanks so much for this conversation. I will see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Bible Worm. If you've enjoyed this free podcast, we hope you'll help us keep it going by joining our Patreon for as little as $4 per month. You can also sign up for other goodies like early access, video lectures, weekly liturgies, and more. Visit patreon.com/BibleWormPodcast for details.
Bible Worm is produced and edited by Bobby Williamson. Our theme song is sung by Colin Bagby, and our theme music is The World at Large by Dano Songs. Many thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping make this podcast possible.
Join us again next time when we'll discuss Luke 16, 19 to 31, the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Until then, keep on digging.